Our Halloween banner for year 3 has arrived and has brought along some spooky new additions to the game, including a brand new type of hero. We have Halloween alts for Ilyana, La Rochelle, Dozla, and Hector and Lilina. Hector and Lilina are a new type of hero, the duo hero. They come with their own special abilities similar to the pair of legendary heroes, so be on the lookout for this powerful father-daughter team. We'll take a look at all these units' stats, new weapons and skills, and then discuss journal playstyle along with builds. Let's get started. First up is Ilyana, a newcomer from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. She's a girl who is always hungry, so keep your candy away from her. Halloween Ilyana is an armored blue mage, only our 4th one so far and our 2nd blue one. She has 41 HP, 38 attack, 23 speed, 30 defense, and 37 resistance. Pretty typical slow armor stat line, but with a ton of resistance to fight off other mages. Ilyana has the highest attack by far for any armored mage, and she's definitely going to put it to good use. She has Iceberg, which is great for her 37 base res. Her B skill is the ever potent Bold Fighter, and that gives her a follow-up attack while initiating an extra special charge. This will allow her to proc Iceberg on her 2nd attack should she take a counter in between. With 38 attack and an 18 damage Iceberg proc, you don't exactly want to stand in Ilyana's way. Moving on to her new weapon, Ilyana and the rest of this year's Halloween units have some fun new weapons. She has the Spooky Sensor Plus, an inheritable blue tome that has the effects of Fury 3, plus 3 to all stats at all times, but after combat the user takes 6 damage. If you have played this game for a while, you will know that Fury is a very popular skill. These Halloween weapons will grant some big stat boosts, especially since they can be stat refined, and we have seen many forms of Fury builds. That being said, with Fury on the weapon slot, we don't get any crazy special abilities like special cooldown or desperation, so builds will be pretty simple. For Ilyana, she can make decent use of the weapon. Obviously, more attack is great for Bold Fighter, and it doesn't have an HP condition. You just have to be careful of taking counterattacks and when she gets attacked on the enemy phase. I think her low speed hinders the potential of the Fury weapon, so while it provides some nice stat boost, I wouldn't say it's going to be her absolute best weapon. Moving on, we have a new C skill called Attack and Res Gap. At the start of the turn, grants attack and res plus 5 to ally with the highest attack plus res total for 1 turn. Excludes the user. This is a buffing ability that is similar to the opening C skills, except they grant plus 5 to 2 stats with a slightly more complicated condition. These buffing skills can be pretty good since they work from anywhere on the map. The only issue is that you want to plan beforehand who on the team is going to get that buff, and you need to do a little bit of math. In theory, you should be able to buff multiple allies if they have the same attack plus res total, and while that may seem complicated, it may open up some interesting possibilities. For example, say you have a unit with 50 attack and 30 resistance. If you want to buff another ally, then they need an attack and res total of 80, and you can reach that in many ways. You can have 45 attack with 35 res, or you can have 60 attack and 20 resistance. Not gonna say this is a good skill, but it has some neat potential. For builds, Ilyana has a very simple game plan with her base kit, big player phase damage, and all you really need to do is give her death blow to continue along that path. A 2-turn special may also be used to proc on units who can't counter her. Since she is similar to Winter Tharja, there's nothing stopping her from running similar skills like Close Counter or Vengeful Fighter. If you want a more defensive setup, then you'll want to change out Spooky Sensor for something like an Owl Tome or even a Blade Tome. If you want to keep her Fury weapon, then Brazen skills are another choice and can work for either player phase or enemy phase builds. A slight defensive boost would be nice for Ilyana, and she can use Quick Riposte as a seal if you want some mixed phase action. Now, something really interesting is giving Ilyana the Juicy Wave Plus Tome from Summer Camilla. This weapon has built-in desperation, and yes, it can use Bold Fighter's follow-up attack to activate. Compared to Valentine's Lynn, the other blue armored mage, Ilyana has 7 more base attack, so she can run this crazy combo much more efficiently. Probably not going to be a meta build or anything, but it's a fun concept. Overall, Halloween Ilyana is sort of like a Winter Tharja or a Blue Winter Tharja, maybe some unneeded speed, but with a Fury weapon, she can maybe get up to some middling speed stats. She has a lot of damage, and Natural Bold Fighter does set her up to be a pretty deadly player-phased unit. Our next Halloween unit is La Rochelle. Sure, she's not a jacked up armor unit, but she has some great artwork and some very fun voice lines. This time, the Princess of Roston is a green mage cavalier. She has 39 HP, 36 attack, 34 speed, 22 defense, and 20 resistance. So some interesting things to note here regarding her stats. La Rochelle has the highest base stat total for mage cavaliers, and it seems like they are finally allowing this class type to get in on that power creep stats. She has the highest attack for all mage cavs, which is pretty good. Her speed is tied for 2nd best, and her HP is tied for best in class, which is rather surprising. Defense and res isn't anything special, but with a Fury weapon, having both of them at least in the 20s is good for taking at least 1 hit. Overall, Halloween La Rochelle isn't that bad, arguably the best offensive spread for Mage Cavaliers, and while she doesn't have a unique weapon, there's always the ever popular Blade Tome. For ult skills, she has Rally Attack and Speed plus 6 attack and speed buffs for one ally is always nice. Her A skill is Swift Sparrow 2. I guess he didn't want to give for Swift Sparrow 3, but it's better than nothing. La Rochelle's weapon is the Madness Flask plus a 12 might green tome that has built-in Fury 3. Since La Rochelle has some decent attack and speed, she is a great user of this weapon. She'll hit 51 attack and 37 speed just with this tome, and if you choose the Speed Refined, that'll get her up to 39 speed, which is really good. The extra defense and res is also appreciated for taking at least one hit, and remember that she has a decent amount of HP to work with, so she shouldn't get completely destroyed in one shot. For our other new skill, La Rochelle introduces speed and res ruse to the game. If a rally assist is used by unit or targets unit, then inflict -5 speed and res and the guard status on foes in counter directions from both units. This is a very nice supportive ability, and La Rochelle has rally attack and speed plus to activate it. She can give some really big speed advantages and can make use of the debuffs for herself as well. Ruse skills are pretty annoying and will be great if you like using rally traps in your PvP modes. The added guard effect is also very nasty, and I do think these abilities are pretty good. Pair La Rochelle with some decently fast dragons or mages to get the most value out of this skill. For playstyles and builds, La Rochelle is in a very interesting spot and has some neat things going for her. First off, her base kit offers nice support options in speed and res ruse and her rally skill, so giving her something like Fortify or Ward Cavalry and Chill Attack can round out a cavalry team pretty nicely. However, La Rochelle has some great offensive potential, and thanks to her Madness Flask, she can really take advantage of it. She can pair it with a Fury 3A skill for double Fury, and that would deal 12 damage to her after combat. If this is not a super high HP La Rochelle, then she should be able to get into Desperation and Brazen range after just one round of combat. This is a dream case for Desperation users, and plus Double Fury adds a lot of good bulk on during that first fight she has to take. If we use a non-merge La Rochelle with Double Fury, a Speed Refined Madness Flask, and a Brazen Attack and Speed as a seal, then she will have 61 attack and 49 speed after that initial first fight. With 3 movement, she can clean up fights around the battlefield, but is extremely vulnerable, obviously. Madness Flask is a really good weapon for her, but if you just want pure damage, then a Blade Tome is always available. While most times seasonal Mage Cavaliers aren't spectacular, I think Halloween La Rochelle sets a new benchmark, and she looks like a pretty good unit to pick up. To protect La Rochelle, we have Dozla, who is also from Sacred Stones. He's a fun character who travels with La Rochelle, and you also get him as a pre-promoted Berserker in Sacred Stones. Instead of wielding a giant axe, this time Dozla is an armored colorless dagger unit. He has 45 HP, 38 attack, 29 speed, 35 defense, and 27 resistance. He is also our 4th armored dagger unit and is the fastest of the group, although that's not saying much. He ties for highest attack for all daggers and does have the highest HP and defense as well. As a colorless dagger, he should be compared to Winter Cecilia, who is a free armored dagger unit. Dozla actually bests her in everything except for having 9 less resistance. That may sound bad, but he still has 27 resistance, which isn't really that terrible. For ult skills, Dozla has rally attack and defense plus, no doubt, so that he can help La Rochelle proc her ruse ability. His C skill is armor march, which is good since he is a ranged army unit, and with 38 attack, Dozla can make some pretty strong offensive plays. His weapon is the Pumpkin A Box Plus, which is a Fury 3 dagger. It comes with the usual -7 defense and res debuffs that most daggers have, and that means Dozla will hit even harder after he debuffs the enemy team. With this weapon equipped, he hits 53 attack, 32 speed, 38 defense, and 30 res. Unlike Ilyana, Dozla can potentially make better use of the extra speed from Fury. A speed refine would get him up to 34 speed, and a speed boon would bump it up even higher, and will be pretty interesting since he is an armored unit. Just remember that speed can impact defensive performance as well. For his new A skill, Dozla has another Aether Raids only skill. This one is for defense and grants up to +10 attack and defense depending on the number of defensive structures still standing. Definitely not the most popular skills, but at least the defensive versions are more practical. If you can keep those structures alive, then Dozla getting the extra +10 or even +7 attack would be really nice. Dozla has a crazy amount of build options and playstyles. He can pretty much copy whatever Winter Cecilia can do, and albeit with less res to work with. He is a little better suited for offensive builds thanks to his high base attack, and as such, Bold Fighter is one of his best skills. He can run any of the fighter skills, and with his not super slow 29 speed, he could be a decent special fighter user depending on builds. If you want a cheaper alternative, then Quick Riposte is always good, and then Vantage works nicely with the Pumpkin a Box. If you want a tankier build, then you probably don't want a Fury weapon, and Dozla has a lot of daggers to choose from, including the Barb Shuriken or even Winter Cecilia's Goody Boot. He can run close counter or vengeful fighter, and you have tons of good skills like attack smoke or bonds in the seal slot. If you want to utilize his high attack stat, then Dozla can also run the premier daggers like the broadleaf fan, splashy bucket, or lethal carrot. Another free option is Hot Springs Camilla's Ouch Pouch Plus, which grants an instant -2 special cooldown. While the pumpkin box can be fun with its extra stat boost, there is a lot of room for experimentation. Dozla has the makings of a scary army unit, but he just needs some skills to truly shine. Our last unit is Halloween Hector and Lilina. These two are our first type of dual hero. Dual heroes come with a unique skill that can be activated just like pair up, and it's very possible that there will be other dual skills. The reason I think that is because the text is in green rather than the usual white, and if it didn't change, why bother making it a different color? For Hector and Lilina, their dual skill deals 20 damage to foes within 3 columns of them. Dual heroes also seem to get a new dual ability, which instead of granting 175 BST for the newer pair of legendary heroes, it's now 185 BST. Now we could see a lot more dual hero pairings in the future because they aren't legendary or mythic heroes, so they aren't tied down to once a month banners. As much as I like the idea of 2 characters paired together, I can't help but worry about how they will affect gameplay. We'll just have to see what the frequency of their releases will be and how their new dual skills will affect the game. As a unit, we'll just refer to this duo as Hector for simplicity. Halloween Hector is a sword armor unit and has 47 HP, 41 attack, 26 speed, 39 defense, and 27 resistance. Unsurprisingly, Hector as usual is a beast with the highest attack and even highest res for the group, although sword armor units just seem to hate resistance. He does tie for highest attack in the whole game. 26 speed is not completely horrible for an army unit, and then his HP and defense are about on par for the course. For old skills, Hector has Bonfire, which is great. It's basically a universal law that Hector must also come with Distant Counter, which is great if you like the fodder. His C skill is then Hone Armor to buff up his fellow armor bros. For his unique weapon, which is indeed a sword, not a staff, Hector has the Conjurer Curious. This is a 16 might sword that is effective against armors and grants a flat +3 attack. This Hector will hit 60 attack just with it equipped. For its effect, if it's an odd number turn or if the foe has less than 100% HP at the start of battle, then Hector gets +4 to all stats. So first off, having 60 attack plus an armor slang effect is pretty darn good if you plan to clash armor with armor. To get himself some extra stats, Hector either has to wait for odd turns or he can use his brand new dual skill to inflict 20 damage instantly. Pretty crazy stuff when you just have one of the highest damaging units in the game and you let them inflict 20 damage just cuz. Now for Hector's new B skill, he brings odd follow-up 3. If it's an odd number turn, then the unit gets to make a guaranteed follow-up attack and the enemy cannot make a follow-up attack. Just to clarify, this ability is restricted to armor units only, and really it's just another fighter skill since it uses the same type of icon. You can see why Hector's weapon grants those extra stats on odd turns since he gets to make a follow-up attack ideally. If you want, think of this skill like a breaker skill just for odd number turns. It can be very powerful since it works for both phases, but it's every other turn and that can cause reliability problems. One turn Hector is real strong, but the next he may run into some issues. Now to be fair, because he has his dual skill, I think it won't be that much of an issue for Hector and Lilina themselves, but if you give this skill to another army unit, then just be aware of what turn it is. Is odd follow better than these stupidly strong, bold, vengeful, or special fighter skills? Well, I think special cooldown is just way too powerful these days to pass up on, so I don't think it surpasses them by any means. It will probably be pretty annoying though when it does work. Regarding playstyle, Halloween Hector is all about setup. Distant Counter plus auto follow-up sort of mimics his legendary form with Thunder Armbands, by preventing an enemy follow-up and having his own follow-up. He is a strong tank, but it works on odd turns. If Hector has to tank on an even turn, then he can still be effective if his 20 damage dual skill allows him to one-shot his enemy on the counterattack. If you just aren't feeling odd follow-up or odd fighter, I suppose, then Hector can run for sure the other fighter skills. He can probably make good use of special fighter if he gets the speed boost going from his weapon, and he would be a decent user of the threaten attack and speed skill from Brave Alm. For fun, you can give Hector even or odd wave buffs. His weapon grants in combat buffs, so you can go double odd waves for big stat boost, or you can use double even waves to have something for even those even numbered turns. It also grants the +4 boost against weakened foes, and that can easily be achieved with his dual skill. To me, Halloween Hector will probably be pretty darn good because of the dual skill he has. I believe you can stack the dual skill if you bring multiple copies, so yeah, that's some pretty cheesy stuff. I'm not even going to get into his usage in Aether raids, that's a whole other can of worms. If you have Hector and Lilina, I'd love to hear your thoughts on using them so far. That wraps up this banner breakdown. For those of you saving up orbs, well, we have Halloween Rolf as our next Tempest reward. He's got a Fury bow and a pretty nice kit, so look forward to his arrival. Let me know your thoughts on this banner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.